Hello, I'm Erica from Ever Educating, and this video is part of my Successful Start series. For 5 consecutive weeks, I'm talking all about designing your first week of a college course. The first link below leads you straight to the free workbook I've created for this series. It's over 60 pages long, so make sure to download it if you haven't already. It's right there. On this channel, I'm talking all about how students have responded to the materials I've created for my courses. In my related blog post, I provided examples of those materials, and in the workbook, I lead you step by step through the materials and creating them for your own classes. Even if you're not watching this video during the 5 weeks it's live, you can still download the workbook by clicking the link below. All the links to the materials related to the series can be found inside of the notebook. With all that said, let's get started. In today's video, I decided to try something slightly different structure-wise when talking about how my students have responded to my course schedules. I'm going to go over 3 things my students liked and didn't like about my course schedule throughout the semesters I've taught. The first like and dislike stems from the same element of the schedule, the reading pace of our required text. I've taught literature courses where students had to read the whole novel before we discussed it as a class. That way, we didn't have to worry about spoilers, and we can discuss important elements of the text fully from the very beginning. We didn't have to wait to find out what happened to a character, for example, before saying something definitive about them. I've taught more literature courses with a pace of reading of half a novel at a time. So students read the first half for a Tuesday class, for example, and then the second half for the Thursday class discussion. While I told students that had read past the first half on that first day to not reveal additional information, that wasn't always successful. In my literature course this last semester, I slowed down the pace even more. The readings were divided into 3 days, with the 4th day devoted to a separate class activity connected to that particular novel. This was also a class that met 2 times a week, so we discussed each novel for 2 weeks of class. By far and away, my most recent students were the happiest with the reading pace, unsurprisingly. While I didn't receive too much negative feedback with the whole novel readers, when comparing to the more recent ones, I did get a lot of, "This class was too fast and we read too much." Now keep in mind that my courses are 100 level courses, they're introductory ones, and 2 of the 3 more recent ones are Gen Ed as well, so I basically had no English majors in my courses. You want to really consider the demographics of your students when creating your schedule. There might not be a way to slow down the pace of the work you have your students do, but the rich and detailed discussions we had in my most recent class made clear to me that fewer books doesn't mean less rigorous work. The second thing my students like about my course schedules are how the assignments include multiple optional deadlines. Rather than require a mid-sized paper for the middle of the semester, for example, my students need to complete 3 mini analyses posts throughout the whole semester. They can choose from a range of options though, so potentially 3 of 10, or 4 of 12. Depending on the number of books and reading pace, they often have 8 to 12 chances to complete this activity. I include all deadlines in the course schedule so students know exactly when they need to turn them in. I suggest requiring 1 during the first half of your semester or trimester, so you're not just getting tons of responses to the last 3 options. I also let students know they can complete extra analysis posts, and I'll only count the ones with the highest grades towards their overall course grade. That tends to get a few students to start early so they can complete more if they're unhappy with the first 1 or 2 grades that they receive. In general, whenever I ask students what assignments they like the most, they pick the ones where they had the power to choose. What they don't like though is when you give them an assignment and they don't get any feedback or the grade before weeks have passed. The way to design my literature courses allows me to grade a few assignments at a time, but it also means I'm constantly grading. Still, I prefer this option rather than getting dozens of papers at once. But I can keep my grading schedule. So if you can't keep that pace, you want to make sure you consider if your schedule has too many assignments too close together. I have a whole post about making grading easier and faster that I'll link below in the description box. But in general, you want to look at your schedule and really consider if you can grade and give students feedback on the major assignments before the next one is due, especially if the next one is based off the skills of the one prior. I always struggle with this in my writing courses because they turn in so much material for every unit project. I've had to work on my pacing in these units when creating my schedules in order to combat that issue. I've had some success, but there's also still room to improve as well. For one final thing students like about my course schedules, I like to focus on the design of the actual schedule itself that I create and add to my LMS site. You can see an example of the schedule in today's blog post, as well as in the section of the workbook that I include in the series. That's also linked in the description box as well, in case you're coming across this video without realizing that there's a workbook attached. I keep my semester schedule table simple and to the point, with only 3 informative columns. The first one with the week number, the second with the description, and the third with the deadlines. I always make sure to bold my major assignment deadlines to make it easier to see for students. And in the descriptions, I include not just the page numbers, but the chapters as well, in case students have different editions of the same novel. My course schedule also always fits into one page. That makes it easy for students to either download it and print it, or just glimpse it on their computer screen or on their phone. You want to be concise and really informative. Students really appreciate that. And then finally, build moments into your schedule where you can ask students what they're struggling with and to answer questions that they have. While some students will be able to keep up the pace that you're using, others will fall behind and they might not feel confident in saying so. These students don't like being washed away in the current of your pace, and they might let you know that in their course assessment or evaluations. So to mitigate these negative emotions, I have students complete a midterm chat midway through the semester, and I have a blog post about that I'll link below. But I also periodically pass out index card to students near the end of the class and ask for anonymous questions that they have at this point in time. I then collect them and take the time to answer them in front of the whole class so no one feels caught out. Insert these short breaks into your personal course schedule, not on the one that you give to students. That way, you're reminding yourself to keep some free time to answer questions on those particular days. If you found any of the information I just shared helpful, I would appreciate you clicking the like button below.